Hello, welcome to VFX Artist Podcast. My workstation died. And here's my new workstation. So I thought, let's turn a disadvantage into an advantage and let's document the process. It's going to be a badass VFX workstation. I've got a decent graphics card, GeForce RTX 360. I've got my motherboard here. I've got a nice case. And I've got my pad. I've got 64 gigabytes of RAM, hard disks. I've got my 800 watt fan. Core of this is going to be the processor, which is a 5000 series processor from AMD. So it's the first non-Intel processor I've actually used. So let's see how it goes. This is the motherboard. We are going to attach the motherboard to the processor using the actual box as an anti-static pad because it's a cardboard box. Okay, we have lots of ports, so we're going to use the box to assemble things. So now I have the Ryzen processor. Now some of these come with a cooler. This particular one doesn't. So when it comes with a cooler, obviously the cooler would be in there. This one doesn't. So I have my little chip here. Now there is this white triangle, and this should line up with I was hoping a white triangle on here. On this version it isn't actually white. So after opening this, there's actually a black triangle there. But you can sort of see that when I put that in, it just falls in and you hear that nice kind of satisfying sound. And then I can close this. Rather than using the standard cooler that comes with some AMD Ryzen processors, I've got this separate Dark Rock 4. It's pretty big and beefy. It's got here all of this stuff, and it's got two fans. A larger fan and a smaller fan, so there's a fair bit of assembly there. I've also got my RAM, so it may also be time to think about putting the RAM in. I want to make sure that I have space for my RAM. So here we have some instructions about installing the memory, because the Asus has a very weird way of connecting it. You would assume you just go in order 1, 2, 3, but as you can see, it wants you to put them in the A2 and B2 sockets. So A2 and B2. Okay. So these two here, and we're going to take the RAM. We've got this Corsair Vengeance. It's DDR4, 3200 gigs. So I'm going to take these out. Now I'm going to hold it by the plastic. Don't touch the gold fingers. So we've put in the first one. We're going to do the same thing. So we've got this really slightly annoying process of removing the plastic. It's sort of silly, but I guess it makes the logo look nice. So this should just slide down with no resistance into here. Go straight down. Then we push with one thumb. Make sure that we push with one thumb, then with the other thumb. And then we have our RAM in. So now these will open. So if I had more RAM, I could put them into these sockets. But 64, unless I'm using Nuke Studio, which I actually at some point want to, should be enough. So let's start installing the cooler. Now this actually comes with a number of packets. You want the one obviously that says AMD, because I have an AMD processor. And it comes with these screws. So it actually comes with a whole other bag of screws and bits for Intel. Likewise, when you look at the instructions, it actually has instructions for Intel and instructions for AMD. So you need to look at the relevant instructions for the model. I'm using this Ryzen AMD processor. So what I've got to do is put these little spacers onto here. Now I got washers which are for if I have a different motherboard. If I have a AM3, I would use these washers as well, or AM2. I have an AM4. So according to the instructions, I don't need that. So I put these on, and these have the AM4 holes, and the instructions tell you which ones to use. So I'm just going to put this here. One general thing with these is don't tighten all the screws all the way. Get everything in place, and then afterwards go back and tighten them up. Okay, so we're going to put these spacers down, following the instructions for the particular model that you have, which is an AM4 motherboard. This guy should then sit on here, something like this. We're going to have to put the thermal paste here, between that and that. Obviously remove this plastic. We're going to put it here, and then we're going to have the fans going through so that they blow air out the back of our PC. And actually fitting it this way you have space for, even if I put in the extra RAM, it would all fit in. So I could have 128 gigs of RAM, and my two fans will blow the air across. The fans can actually be attached in different positions, but I'm going to put one in the middle, and I'm going to put one over here to leave space for extra RAM should I decide to install some later. This cooler actually comes with its own packet of thermal paste. I'm just going to apply a pea-sized amount onto the processor. That's about the size of a pea. In fact, this only gives you a pea-sized amount, so that's good. I had a packet left over, but I just discovered I have one in there. The instructions actually are quite specific not to eat this. So we've applied our thermal paste, pea-sized amount. We're going to put it this way. So the be quiet, the B is closest to the RAM. That's going to go on there. Squishing it down, that thermal paste will get nicely spread out, so I don't need to spread it like jam beforehand. Now, this is the holding bracket. This is going to hold it in place. But to get to that, I can screw it in, but I need to screw it in through the top. So this has these covers here. The idea is with this very long screwdriver, it can go through the hole, and I can screw it down through there. So I'm going to take these off. We'll keep these and throw them away. You can start to screw it down. I'm just going to put it in loosely. Do the other one, and then I'll tighten them both up. So that's always the way with all these screws, and you know, that's not just, especially with computers because they're delicate, you want to really make sure you get all your screws in place loosely, and then when they're in position and you're happy, then you start tightening them up. Okay, so we have these Be Quiet fans. This big one, big and thin, goes in the middle, like so. And then we just are going to clip it onto the actual CPU cooler. I've attached this splitter here because there's only one fan port on the motherboard itself, and then I'm just going to attach these here and this here. Okay, so I'm going to have to think about some sort of cable management here. We're taking off all this plastic. Any of these stickers you want to get rid of because they are going to start smelling if the PC gets hot. The next thing we're going to do is add our memory. So this is an M2, so I've just already unscrewed this. You don't need to see me unscrew this, but this little bit unscrews, and you've got this little space in here, and the M2 looks like this, and you simply put it in. I don't know why they put them in this ridiculous packet, but you've got to be careful. If you push it too hard, these will actually fly out, and you know, that could be bad. They could get broken. So that's 2 terabytes, and believe it or not, that's 2 terabytes of memory in these tiny little dinky things. Okay, so now it's going to start looking like a computer. I had to unscrew this fan from the back of the case, and that was just to get this to fit in. Now I've got to be careful doing this, but basically this will slot in here like this. And you can sort of see that lines up. We've now got the ports at the back. We've got all our USBs and things like that. So we're going to start attaching the motherboard to the case. So now the fun bit, we get to get a graphics card. So I've already taken the back of the case, so I've removed this part here, and I've removed one of these little guys. So we've got a space for our slots to come out. The biggest problem here is I find it's actually quite difficult to get this to fit nicely in the case, but it should just slot in and go there. It's quite big. I ended up trying the different ports. I've actually put it on the top one. So we've almost got a computer here. It's now time to add this guy. It's a power supply, 850 watt, RMX 850, 850 watts. It's got a fan here. The fan should be pointing downwards to blow air out the bottom of the machine. Some of these you can attach all the cables and then feed it in the back in a chassis. This particular box, you can't do that, so I'm going to put it inside here. Put it there, and then it's just a matter of getting the right power to the right device. is now time for the moment of truth. Oh, right, okay, so we've got memory. We have no keyboard, which I haven't touched with. CPU fan error. Now I'm hoping this is just a BIOS thing. Press F1 to set up. So I think everything is going to switch on. Everything seems to be sort of semi-okay. I'm going to actually move this into the office and start clearing table space. I wanted to give you a heads up of the final result. The machine is the one I'm actually recording this audio on and that I've edited this video on. It's working great. Everything is working very well. The issue I had at the beginning, the error message that was coming up with the CPU heat, was because one of the cables, the power connection cables, was touching the fan. Bad cable management is probably the biggest bugbear of building a PC. And moving bits around, getting the cables set up nicely was basically all it took to get everything running smoothly. I want to give a quick shout out to Nelson Lim. There were some availability issues in the UK, but pretty much the specs I've used are the specs that he suggested. I hope you found this video useful. And please like and subscribe, follow the VFX Artists podcast. We have some great interviews with VFX supervisors, VFX artists of all levels. And good luck with your own build. Let us know how it goes. Thank you.